anxiety. We take the old, cherish the new, is what my mom says. You listen to your elders. You don't have to take it exactly how it's supposed to be. You learn from what you want to take from it. That's what life's about. No one should sit there and say, "Oh, well, you're just not good enough." And even if it's inside of you, because mind you, 50% of the time when I was younger was really me talking to myself. So, yes, somebody would sit there and put a needle in there and say, "Oh, you're just not doing good today." And I would take it as, "Oh my gosh, I suck. I'm horrible." And then that would extreme to anxiety. So it's not just me that was doing it. It was, well, them that was doing it. It was majority of me as well. And you have to take a look at yourself too. And that's a hard dialogue to have. To sit there and say, "Oh wow, I could have been, I could have like had a lot less stress if I just deflected all this negativity." I probably would have auditioned for, the Richmond Symphony. I probably, if I didn't have a situation with my old band, my old horn director and horn professor, I would have flicked him off and moved on with my day. Now, mind you, I care for him as a person. I care for all my musician friends as a person. But I just pray that if they ever listen to this, they understand that maybe it's time to look at yourself as a teacher. Okay, how do I become a better teacher? First of all, you're going to have to sit there and tell yourself that you're a student and teacher. You're not just a teacher, you're a student teacher. And yes, you may have this huge experience and huge resume and the people, but that means squat when you die in 6 feet under. And it means squat to the student that's trying to learn. What matters to that student that's trying to learn is your number one, not who you know, but how you teach them. I know it's a tough one. Let's soak that in. Not who you know, but how you teach them. So if you're going to sit there and teach them, don't reflect your insecurities on them. And definitely don't put them in a box. Mind you, you may have an outline of saying, "Hey, this is what a great horn player is, A, B, C, and D. This is what they should have." But mind you, that's your list, not their list. Because what if they come across and they decide to do a crazy audition for a jazz scene? They decide to play jazz horn, and that's not what you're trained in. So then you need to refer them to a jazz horn player or give them the resources they need to succeed and let them do it. Let them take those resources and succeed. If they don't do it, that's on them, not you. But if you're sitting there hindering that person and you're not listening to them, active listening. I listened to a TED Talk a couple days ago. I was like one of my favorites, and I could post the link later. But it literally was about active listening and how we are losing our active listening skills. And because I have to listen as a co-owner of a national bike organization that's bringing stigma, stereotypes, and profiling, I got to listen. And I realized active listening could have helped me a lot growing up. Like if I would have looked at my old self and said, "Hey, you are listening, you take to an extent because you take everything with like a whole lot of grain of salt and you just run with it, Katie. Let's let's not take it for the grain of salt and just take what we can from it. But your professor should be listening to you as well. You are paying money to be in this school. They need to be listening to what you have to say, but then you have to listen to what they have to say. It's a balance. But if they start preaching, it's like I say, or sitting there and trying to put you in a box, or for example, trying to sit there and tell you that you're just not good enough, or that what you're doing is horrible. Mind you, one of my horn professors was the trigger for me going into medication. Now, mind you, I've forgiven him. I had to. But it was also my parents. It was also myself. I was 18, you know. Also my low self-esteem and my environment. And we have to go through things to learn from them. Well, goodness gracious, Jesus took me through some horrible, shit that I put myself through as well. But it mixed up with music because music was my job. It was who I was. And maybe that's toxic, but that's what a musician does. You eat, live, and breathe it. You practice all the time. And letting down your hair because you had a really bad lesson that week or every single week and you just didn't feel comfortable and you're not doing what you need to do and you're just not feeling good enough, you're taking out elsewhere. And that could be failing. Mind you, you're paying for education. But after you do quartets and lessons and you're paying for lessons and you're, trying to do your best and you're trying to play, but I never felt good enough to go into a symphony, even though I was told by one of my biggest cheerleaders that you should be playing in a symphony. Like, you have that capabilities. But when I studied with symphony horn players, it was like pounding my head like I wasn't good enough. This, I don't care if you're performing. I don't care who you are. You got to let your students fly. And I think that's where we're failing our students. That's where we're failing our people, especially in the music world. If I could have a letter, I don't know, dear classical music world, stop being judgmental. Yes, there's big money in the classical music world, big money, because you have those elder individuals that are retired that are putting money towards your band, towards your symphony, towards education, towards your colleges, towards your studying, your sabbaticals. But then you have to sit there and realize that you're not made of money. You're a teacher. When it comes down to it, your money is squat compared to what you're doing for the next generation. And if you're going to be a student, if you're going to be a teacher, you have to realize you're a student as well. And you have to realize that student is not you. Just because you didn't succeed in Symphony World or you chose a different path doesn't make it right for you to reflect it off your student. Because they could be like a Lizzo who plays flute and does like the mainstream music world. She has an amazing job. She plays flute. People are like, I know how many times I've heard from the music world, classical music world, of, oh, symphony musicians do not belong in the normal genres. Go fuck yourself. Look at her. She's playing flute on stage with like masses. Like, there's just no excuses for us being put in this box. And when I was reading that post last week, I loved it that he was called back, but it made me sad to sit there and listen to what he stated, because underneath of it, he was saying he didn't feel good enough. He never felt good enough. When he was one of the best horn players, I think a lot of us horn players can all agree on, he was awesome. That he had that spirit. But when was that spirit taken away? Was it when he was in high school? Was it when he was in college? Was it when he went to his master's and PhD? What was it? And then we also go through the school systems and we're like, well, you're not going to be able to perform, blah, blah, blah. When really, actually, they can work a full-time job and still perform and maybe take lessons on the side instead of going to full-blown college. Just because they're taking away your income in your universities doesn't make them less of a musician and doesn't make them less of a person to succeed in the music world. For some reason, this resume situation where if they don't come from a PhD or if they don't study with so-and-so, they're not good enough. And that's a bunch of bullshit. Let them be a musician. Mind you, I was out of tune sometimes. Like, there was times when I had colds. I do know my hearing has gone down as I've gotten older. I see it first. I hate to say it, you guys, man, I hate getting older. But I also damage my hearing, and there's times where I still have to maneuver the pitch. Like, if I can pitch up with somebody that's singing and pitch up with them, but when it comes to like me solo singing, I have to hear the note first to proceed because I don't have it in my head, if that makes sense. But it doesn't make me less of a musician. It doesn't make me less of a human being that loves classical music. And to be honest with you, it doesn't make me less of a human being just in general. And I pray that within this podcast, as we talk more about it, I pray things start changing because you sitting there saying that, oh, I'm in this sabbatical, I'm in a 10-year position and the PhD and I play French horn and I'm the best and I know all these people all around the world when your students are failing. And that's not okay. You need to look at yourself and say, okay, I am damaging these young artists that are really promising. Creativity. Don't put them in boxes. I pray that he keeps auditioning. I pray that he keeps auditioning for every single symphony around the United States, even overseas. I was so proud. I have this friend who's a horn player. She was just damaged by college, like fully damaged. And I teared up for her because being empath, I was sad for her because if she stayed where she was, she would never get to where she is now, and she had to leave out of the country. She had to leave. And when I called her up and I asked her, I said, how are you doing? And she's like, really good. I'm loving it. I'm loving where I'm at in South America. They support me. The community supports me. My teachers support me. They love what I do. I mess up. I'm human. But listen, I'm playing with the symphony down here now. And I was so proud of her. I was so proud of her. And if I could sit there and give her a hug, and one day I will, I would, because she deserves everything. And it shows you how important being a teacher and a student is. It shows you how important that resume is not that important. It's your own path. Mind you, you don't want to get in the wrong area and say, oh well, I followed the wrong person, like a like a cult, I guess you can say. But you don't know like how you get in those situations until you start questioning. Okay, this porn instructor is not caring about my creativity. He's not caring about who I am. He tells me that I'm not a good horn player. He doesn't support me. He supports the other people that are just great. I'm not feeling cared about. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of us sit there and say, "Oh, well, me, 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 me." No, I know this is your life. You need to put yourself first because no one else is going to do it. And I hate to say it though, I'll put you first, just so you know. I will sit there and be your biggest cheerleader. You tell me where you're going to be, I'll come cheer you on. I don't care what you are, who you are. I absolutely want you to succeed in what you do in life. But don't let the classical music, hurt you. For some reason, that community, I don't know why. I do not know why. Maybe it's just like a history thing where they're just a bunch of individuals that have just been beaten up by their other professors. Like, I guess you say hereditary. You know, they've been beaten up by their professors, so then they're going to beat up you, or they have just ego and narcissism with them. I meet a lot of classical musicians when I used to photograph, and some of them were egotistical assholes, and you're like, wow, how has not anyone put you in your place yet? And then you realize that, maybe karma goes in different ways. I don't know. But yes, you should be proud of yourself for being a solo artist on a soundtrack. You should be proud of yourself for being in a symphony world. But all of us, we all came from the womb, you guys. We all came from families. We all had mess ups. Like, doesn't make this big solo person no better than you. That's why you're human. And I hope that message gets sent everywhere. Don't ever give up. I decided I was just done with music. I had to walk away. Now I'm still doing, like I said, I'm still singing. I still do piano. I can't really play piano, but I do like horn. I can like transpose and stuff with piano. One finger at you guys. I'm really bad at the fingers. I miss Marlene Ford. I'm gonna say her name. I missed her. She was my piano teacher that has passed away last year. So we do a moment of silence for her. Play a piano piece for her. But you have to sit there and think about that you're human, that you deserve the best, no matter what, and don't second guess yourself. Keep auditioning, even if you don't feel like you're good enough. Do it because you're building experience. You're building a name for yourself, and who knows who you're going to meet at that audition. You never know. Maybe you'll meet somebody that really fits you for your teaching, and maybe that mentor can put you under your wing and teach you something. All right, you guys, have a good night. Thank you.